Hey guys, my name is Tommy. Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about some things that I personally expect from my GM when I sit down at his or her table to play the game that they prepared for me. Now, I don't want to come off as some kind of game Nazi, and all of these things are subjective to various tables, how they're run, things of that nature. But I feel without a certain little bit of extra prep on the GM's part, the wrong question or the wrong action can lead games into a stagnant area that's not fun for anybody. First thing I expect all my GMs to have when we sit down is a basic knowledge of how their world functions or the ability to improvise it if they don't have that. This becomes a little less important in games where the players are railroaded a little more, where there's a little less exploration, a little less open world, but the more open world the game becomes, the more this becomes relevant. If I, as the player, have a question about the world for roleplay reasons, for deciding what I want to do, things like that, and the GM doesn't know what's going on, then we either A, have to stop and look it up, or B, it just kind of gets swept under the rug, which is unfun. So, for example, we'll say if we're playing in Pathfinder, if I want to know who the current queen is in Irison, and my GM, I'll get back to you on that. It just kind of like, it gets brushed under the rug. Maybe he doesn't even get back to me. Maybe it's just him trying to dodge it. And it's not as fun as even just a simple, if you don't have that answer, a simple improvised, the queen just died, Irison is in rebellion, Baba Yaga has just returned to reclaim her daughter and hasn't chosen an heir yet. Something like that gives me, the player, a little more to work on, a little more building how I want to run my character, things I want to do, especially, again, in a more open world. If we're very episodic, running down like that very, very straight railroad, then okay, fine, you don't need to know. If we're more open and I'm thinking maybe I want to go to Irison, questions like that are important. Another thing I expect my GMs to have before we sit down is a basic knowledge of how the system that they are GMing works. Now, I understand that there are some systems that get bigger and bigger and bigger the more rules you add in, and it's impossible to know them all off the top of your head. But GMs should at least have a basic working understanding of how combat works, how, like, if they see that their players are going to play class ABC, they should understand how those mechanics work. So when I, the player, say, I'm going to do this, they don't fumble around with their phone or a rule book or whatever it is they're getting their information from, trying to figure out how this works. Personally, the first game I ever ran, it was a 3.5 game, and I didn't know what a hit dice was. I had no idea. I'm just putting my monsters together off a little note card, just writing down their armor class, their hit points, whatever their damage dice is, stuff like that. So when I have an army of zombies and the cleric says, I'm going to turn undead, I get this many hit dice, I'm completely lost, and I just have to start grabbing zombie dice and turning them at random, just poof, because turn undead, which is all well and good. I understand as GM, sometimes we have to make a quick rule and go and come back to it later. But sometimes when we make those quick rules, they're really, really inaccurate. And if it was the other way around, say the party is undead and the cleric's trying to turn them and I roll the entire party is turned and destroyed, a rule like that can kill the entire party, and it sucks to have killed somebody and then come back to the next session, hey, I was wrong, I'm sorry. You lose a little bit of your credibility as a GM. But there's nothing worse that a GM can do than to not have the leadership, I guess is the best way to say it, the confidence, the ability to run his game when the players are there. I personally am a huge fan of initiative. Anytime there's a board, anytime minis are in play, just to keep it moving, just to keep pacing up, to keep everybody in the spotlight. So players who are a little more timid than everybody else don't just like get shunted back, while somebody who's a little more confident in an open initiative setting is just blitzing through everything. I think the worst example I've seen of a GM who can't control his players, can't keep his game moving, was at a pickup Star Wars game that I played once. We happened to be at RLGS, my wife and I, and a couple guys who knew we played tabletop games. They came up to us and they asked us, do we want to come play a game of Star Wars with them? And we're like, sure, why not? We have nothing else to do. We have our dice on us, so we go do this. We open up the door when we get to the house where they're playing. I kid you not, there's a couch to the right of the door. There are 3 people on this couch. 2 computers set up on the other side of the room. There's a person here, a person here. GM and his girlfriend are sitting in the middle of a floor in an open room. GM's got his laptop. She's just kind of hanging out, playing around with dice. There's a couch on the other side in an adjoining room. 3 people are on that. 2 people are on the floor. 1 person has a chair he's pulled up from the kitchen. We set up shop on the floor. The GM tries to run the game for this people, but no one gets anywhere because we're all just shouting over each other. Oh, by the way, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, so we're all super tired trying to caffeine up and blitz through this thing. I think in the like 5-hour session that we played, by the time the sun is peeking up over the sky and Sarah and I are heading home, I think she and I together made like 4 actions because the GM wasn't able to control this huge couple rooms of people. All he had to do was go around, ask people what they were doing, or run initiative, keep the reins a little tighter on his game. I think everybody would have had a lot more fun. So that's all I have to say about that. If you have anything else to add, throw it in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe for more videos, and we'll see you next time.